As stated, I did spend 39 years of my life in prison for a crime, a murder I didn't commit. And it was only through the heroic efforts of the Ohio Innocence Project at the University of Cincinnati that I was ultimately exonerated and am able to stand before you today. Senator, I spent some of those years on death row. And, excuse me, I'm sorry.
It's okay, brother.
I came perilously close to my own execution. And in light of that, what I've just shared with you, and in light of the fact that there are documented cases of innocent people who have been executed in our country, I would like to know, how can you still take your stance on the death penalty?
I've always supported the death penalty. I've always supported the death penalty. I don't even understand people that don't. We have to bring back the death penalty. They have to pay the ultimate price. Death penalty. Bring it forth.
Now they give the death penalty where they give a slight injection so that they don't have pain when the needle goes in to slowly put them to sleep. I mean, these people have to be treated very, very severely, and they're not treated severely.
Somebody said the other day, well, he had some psychological problems. Well, you know, in the old days, bing, bong, when we were strong. I'm also directing the Department of Justice to propose legislation ensuring that those who commit hate crimes and mass murders face the death penalty, and that this capital punishment be delivered quickly, decisively, and without years of needless delay.
There are many arguments against the death penalty. It's not a deterrent against the crimes that it punishes. Society who use the death penalty don't have lower crime rates than those that do. When a country abolishes the death penalty, they are not plunged into criminal chaos. But even if the death penalty did reduce crime rates, would it then be acceptable? The death penalty targets the economically disadvantaged, those who can't afford good legal counsel, those without a voice in society. There's a saying in the US, capital punishment means that those without the capital get the punishment. Statistics show this is true. The death penalty is irreversible and results in the death of innocents. Since 1990, in China, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Nigeria, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, and the USA, there have been 51 recorded executions of child offenders, some as young as 14 years old. But even if no more innocents or children are killed, should we tolerate the death penalty? The death penalty is never acceptable. It abuses two of our most basic human rights. Everyone has the right to live, and no one shall be subject to torture. The death penalty obviously kills people, but it also tortures, physically by the brutal nature of execution, and psychologically by forcing individuals to wait to be killed. They wait, sometimes for decades, while others are led to their deaths. Human rights are thus called because they apply to all human beings. They belong to all of us equally. An attack on these fundamental rights anywhere is an attack against all of us. The right to life is inalienable. It cannot be given, and it cannot be taken away. No matter how terrible the crime, in a world full of uncertainty, human rights are a clearly drawn line, a line between what is right and what is wrong, the line between imprisonment and execution. Every individual facing the death penalty is, whatever they stand accused of, still a human being. However much we revile them, however much we are outraged by their actions, however much we want revenge, they are still human beings. They may well have killed and tortured. They've crossed the line. But do we really want to join them?
Growing up, my childhood was not easy. We were very poor, so my father forced me to work long, hard hours. He suffered from terrible mood swings. He was always shouting at me. Some days it just became too much. But there is one day that I will always remember. I was 14, cleaning the windows. I saw a notice for a public execution. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I imagined how the criminal might look, big and strong and dangerous. The execution date arrived. I squeezed my way through the crowd. I was so shocked. There was no strong, dangerous man. Only a very young man trembling as he awaited his fate. He was so young that he hardly had any stubble. I couldn't watch. As I looked back, the boy's body was hanging limp and lifeless. He had fair hair just like me. That experience motivated me to pursue law. Day and night I studied hard. What I'd read about in the law books was actually very different in reality. Most lawyers were too scared to take on cases involving stoning or hanging. And I wasn't scared. When defending a case, you think of them as your family. It's like your own child is burning in the fire created by the authorities and everyone is just standing by. It became my life's purpose to save these young people. Over the next 14 years, I defended many of these juvenile offenders, nearly 20 of whom were saved. One day I received a call about a young man who was only 17 when he committed his crime. I asked, "What's his name?" He answered, "Behnoud Shojaei." A fight had broken up. Behnoud intervened. One of the boys insulted Behnoud's dead mother. Behnoud grabbed a piece of glass, stabbed the boy, and fled the scene. The boy subsequently bled to death. Upon learning this, Behnoud immediately handed himself in and confessed to the police. He was sentenced on the 2nd of October, 2006. He was just 17 years old when he committed his crime. Over the next 3 years, Behnoud's execution date had been set and postponed 6 times. On the 7th occasion, I was summoned to Evin Prison at 3:30 a.m. It was still dark when the victim's family arrived. The crowd rushed toward them, begging them to forgive Behnoud. I remember the victim's father calmed the crowd, telling them he didn't want to actually see Behnoud executed, but he wanted to see the noose around his neck. They brought Behnoud in handcuffed and shackled. He looked so pale and thin. His nose was running. He fell to his knees, begging for mercy. He was shaking, saying, "Please forgive me. My own mother is dead. You can be like my mother now. Please forgive me." She said, "Fine, let's see what happens." We all went to the execution room. A soldier helped Behnoud up and placed the noose around his neck. Finally, the official turned to the victim's parents, saying, "Here is Behnoud. What do you want to do now?" The victim's sister threw herself at her mother's feet, pleading her to forgive him. We were all shocked by what happened next. I recall they charged toward him. We all shouted, "No, no." After that, everything went black. Outside, the crowd were praying for Behnoud. I broke the news to them. They were crying so much. I cried so much. Yes, the stories of these cases are really very painful.